Hi there, this is Peter Pfann for Agent Builder Coaching and I guess eXp Realty. Not I guess. I am with eXp Realty, but I don't always make that front and center because really my support to agents is about their business, not necessarily their affiliation with one brokerage or another. Although I'm with eXp and was the original managing broker for eXp in British Columbia, Canada, um, I don't always promote that per se, because again, this is about your business and how we support you. However, we do get a fair number of questions about, what is eXp is all about, and we've done some videos about that. This particular video is about one, I guess, asset and one benefit eXp has started to offer some time ago, and it's called co-sponsorship. And there's a fair amount of clarity, but there's also some misconceptions and some questions around co-sponsorship and how to best optimize it, best use it in your, I guess, the decision-making process and to decide whether or not you want to join eXp Realty and how to best do that to optimize your benefits as an agent for your business, your career, your life. And so, without further ado, let's jump into that because it is actually not as complicated as a lot of people make it out to be. Yet at the same time, there are some relatively important steps and decisions to make in order to truly take full advantage of this particular aspect of joining eXp Realty and succeeding with it. Okay, so let's jump in and let's get it. So one of the questions that I get from agents that are considering joining eXp Realty, should I have my friend as my sponsor or should I have an expert as a sponsor? And an expert being somebody that has particular business acumen, particular expertise that I think or you think as an agent uh, feels like a distinct benefit to work within the brokerage. And for some people, that's the priority. For other people, it's a loyalty to a person. And I'm not suggesting one is better than the other or one is more right than the other. It's a common question. And now, I guess, really, you can have both. And that in its own right is a real eye opener, and it's a real perk for many agents to consider now eXp as a very viable brokerage to join, aside from all the other benefits and tools and resources that we have to offer. Okay, so before there was co-sponsorship, you pretty much had to decide whether you picked a friend or you picked an expert. Now you can have both, right? You can connect with your friend and have an expert assisting you. Now that applies in many different aspects of your business and business development, right? Dependent entirely what phase or stage of your career you are at. Are you just starting or haven't actually started yet? So you need a little bit more, guidance, assistance, support. Or if you're a top producer and you want to take it to the next level, but you have a loyalty to a friend that may have been in the business for a little while, but is not quite at your production level. Not to criticize, but just as a realization that doesn't always mean that they can be of great support. That also applies to brand new agents. It also applies to people that are even considering retirement. And that retirement is maybe part of the reason why they think, hey, this revenue share thing might be something that I can work with and act in various capacities. And there are some distinct strategies to think about if that is part and parcel of your bigger plan. Okay. And we can help in every way, shape, or form in regards to that. So typically when there is not typically, in all cases, when there is a co-sponsorship involved, there's you, and you should be front and center. You should be the one that gets the clarity in order for you to make the best decision. Then there's your primary sponsor, and there's a co-sponsor. And a lot of people think that it doesn't matter who's who, and that's not entirely true. Okay, there are some distinct reasons why who the primary sponsor and who the co-sponsor is actually makes a huge difference in how that benefits you as the agent considering joining eXp. Okay, so let's walk and talk through each of those steps in these processes. Okay, what a primary sponsor receives is FLQA, and that's technical jargon as to the the way revenue share is distributed. Okay, so it's refers to frontline qualifying agent. Frontline qualifying agent. So the people in your first here, the people that you directly sponsor, you get your revenue share from without kind of qualifying. When you get to the people behind your first line, then if they do not produce $5,000 in commissions every 6 months, then you don't always qualify. And it is a tier that you have to look at where they are in that 6 month period and how the various people that you may have sponsored, how they align. It gets a little technical, but as a primary sponsor, absolutely you get your frontline qualifying agents and revenue share from that. And you get revenue share from levels 2 to 7, assuming that they do qualify. You do get the stock awards, and you get your upline participation. Upline participation becomes important as far as the supports that you receive. Right? If you're in your upline, there's people that you highly value and feel that can contribute to your business success. That's a very valuable consideration. Okay. So that's what the primary sponsor receives. What the co-sponsor receives is they receive what they call a fast start bonus, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. They also get level 1, i.e. your direct revenue share. They get a benefit from that, and they get future downline participation, and then they can provide additional support, right? And receive additional support. Okay. So here are some of the key things that you need to understand from support, right? Support can come from both revenue share, from the direct sponsor, or from the co-sponsor. Doesn't necessarily matter whether they are a sponsor or not. Okay. However, revenue share doesn't flow through a co-sponsor in the same way as it does from a direct sponsor. So therefore, co-sponsors will get, I guess, slightly fewer long-term benefits. And in that sense, they may therefore decide how things work. If I was in your revenue share pool as ABC, agent builder coaching, you get our leadership and you get, all the support and tools. That is not always possible in a co-sponsor situation. And we'll talk about the examples there. Okay. So a simple example. If I'm your sponsor or co-sponsor, you get direct support from us. No question. Okay. That gives you expertise, systems, accountability. Your local sponsor or your friend, or they may be able to give you local access, local market knowledge, and some relationships and what have you. Right? So you get the support from both parts. Very important, very valuable. Right? So you balance out your wants and needs on a personal level as well as on a business situation. However, it does change a little bit as you strategically place the people at the right position in your sponsor versus co-sponsor situation. This is what we would consider to be the best recommended method. Okay, so if you were to consider working with us, we would like to become your sponsor. Okay. And your friend, your co-sponsor. Your co-sponsor still gets, right, the bonus for the 12 months and all the other perks and benefits that we talked about earlier. But you have direct access to all the tools that we offer, all the resources that we offer, and so on and so forth. Okay. And it, you know, obviously the revenue share is paid out to your co-sponsor as well as to us. Okay. So there's no dilution. They're not getting anything less than what they would otherwise get. Okay. And they also get your downline, of course. Okay. Now, if okay, if you were to say be sponsored by somebody in our downline as your sponsor or as your co-sponsor, things change a little bit. Okay. Then if you work with, as the example says, select one of our expert partners as a sponsor or co-sponsor. It's a scenario, a scenario can come up. And I'm putting us in this place, but it could be other people, of course, right? Keep that in mind. So with one of our expert partners, so somebody that we have sponsored at one point in time or another, you will still have direct access to us, right? As we are the sponsor. Then you still have access to us, and your personal partner, friend becomes your co-sponsor. Then they also still get all of the perks that they would be as the co-sponsor. Okay? But you still have access to us because we get a little bit of revenue from the revenue shares through your primary sponsor. And I'm being candid and honest here. That's a benefit that is, considerable to us. And that's the reason why we then can afford to give you access to all of our tools, all of our supports, all of our resources at no cost to you. So it can be a huge benefit to you at whatever stage you are in your business. I hope that makes sense. Okay. Now, if you went the other way around, right? So if you select one of our expert partners as a co-sponsor, right, then we could not support you. Okay. Because there is no direct flow of revenue coming to us through not what is now the co-sponsor as an expert, right? It stops at that co-sponsor and it doesn't flow to us. Okay. Whereas, it would be the case if we were to be your direct sponsor by way of the person that sponsors you, because they're now in our downline. Okay. That means that you would not necessarily receive all of our tools, all of our access. Now, your co-sponsor may still support you. I'm not suggesting that they would drop you at the side of the road, so to speak. No, not at all. But you wouldn't have access to our tools, the tools that we generate for our own direct team. Okay. That's a bit of a difference. Now, why is that important? Well, let me give you some of the ideas, some of the resources and tools that we provide. Right. So we have created a model that we call the 7 Essentials to Success in Real Estate Sales, which applies to every realtor at any given point in time in their business. Right. There's 7 key components to pretty much any business, including real estate salespeople. Right. It talks about business planning, which is a really key component in everybody's business. And unfortunately, entirely too little time and attention is spent on that issue. We teach systems. We teach operation procedures. We teach and coach and work with you on what we call the momentum machine. It's a model that's make sure that you get in touch, stay in touch with people. And we support that with live sessions, with resources, tool, templates, access to Facebook groups and community support, and so on and so forth. We do a weekly podcast, which we call the Agent Files, where we have categorized 4 very distinct agent phase groups in their career that we give you access to, and all of the tools and resources, all at no cost to you. So there are a lot of very distinct tools and resources that we afford and give you access to because you're part of our program, part of our partnership. Right? Now, we call your career in business the journey, and it's just a terminology that we now apply. Um, because, wherever you are in your career, obviously it makes sense to be supported at that phase and that space. And we don't know where you are in your journey, but we try to focus it and personalize it as much as possible to use your specific situation and circumstance. And having been around for almost 40 years now, so I've got a bit of perspective in that context where we're able to customize a lot of the materials directly to you, right? So that's some of the tools and resources that we employ to do that. We talk about the 7 essentials real quick. So the big why to me is a business plan. It's where do you want to be, right? Why do you want to be there when you are absolutely setting your most productive, most efficient, most satisfying stage of your career? What does that look like? What does it pay for? Why are you doing all of that, right? And how you get there then becomes part of a plan, a roadmap, the journey, right? And as such, we work then backwards and say, okay, this is where you want to be. Now, how do we get you there? How do we figure that out? Customized to your specific situation, not forcing you to go, oh, well, you don't like to do cold calling. Well, you got to do cold calling. Well, no. If that's not what you want to do, then let's figure out a way that we can get there without. This is where superpower really comes in, right? What are you passionate about? What drives you outside of the money, the financial rewards? What would you spend time, effort, energy onto that is really near and dear to you if money didn't matter, right? And if you can combine your superpower with your big why and your career in real estate, now lead generation, business development actually doesn't feel, act, or operate like it is, work. It now becomes a passion, right? You're connecting and reconnecting and staying in relationship with people because of your connection with them, your relationship with them, and makes life so much easier. Then we talk about by the numbers, and the numbers are obvious in this business, right? However many relationships that that people really see you as their agent, right? That you have that honored and very sought after preferred status in their mind and in their notion that if and when real estate ever becomes part of their next phase in their life, that you will get the call, you will get the question, you will be asked to support in the system through those transitions in their life. Then SOPs are the systems, the operational procedures, the methodology as to how and what you do in order to generate the results that you want to generate. Part of that, and a very distinct part of it, is, of course, generating leads, and we call them ALMs, automatic lead machine. It is not necessarily about generating leads, but connecting with people, having and building relationships with them, and staying in touch with them, right? So ALM are definitely, if you want to call it that, a subsection of systems, but it is what drives the business. So we want to make sure that everything there is as well tuned or well oiled and well systematized as possible. And the same applies, of course, to transactions, right? This is where automatic transaction machine comes in, ATM. And it is, for all intents and purposes, everything to do with the transactional side of the business. Service delivery, the paperwork, the contracts, the administrative part, to some degree, the financial part is as to where does the money come from, where does it go in the context of transactions, and so on and so forth. Right? And then wow is really about superior customer services and raising the bar to a level where the customer goes, wow, was that ever a pleasant, professional, highly satisfying experience to work with my agent. That generates not only satisfies customers, but also generates referrals. And that becomes then the momentum, the compounding momentum, the continuum that generates your current, but also your future business. When you put all of those together, they truly are the 7 essentials to success. It's a process. It's not an event. And it always shifts and moves depending on where you are in your stage and phase in real estate. And that's why we focus on these tools and these momentum generating and continuum processes to make sure that you get in touch, stay in touch with the people that matter the most. Okay. So why does all of this matter? Well, if you are in any stage of the business, right, you need to make sure that you have your team around you that supports wherever it is that you are and wherever it is that you want to go in your business. That's one of the reasons why you may be considering eXp and may be considering a sponsor. But also you should therefore think, okay, if I'm going to make this shift, make this change, what is best for my future, current, present, future, in my business, my life, my operations, so that I'm most supported wherever it is that I want to go, right? So who you choose, therefore, becomes a very important decision. In no significant different as your financial planner, your banker, your insurance company, and your coach, your trainer, your mentor, your advisors, right? Well, therefore, you can literally have the best of both worlds. So relationships really matter, and of course, growth and matters as much, if not more so. Here's an example, right? If you're saying, hey, I want to support my friend and want to grow, well, that's absolutely true, right? So your friend has a trusted relationship with you. We can provide the professional relationship with you. We can offer you clarity and direction and support and training and the resources necessary to do the more expertise part to develop your business, where your friend can be, an ally in many other levels as well. Okay. So, for example, one of the questions that this agent builder coaching thing is in Victoria, BC. I'm in Toronto. How can they help me? Well, that's why you have your local expertise, right? Your buddy that is locally encouraging to consider eXp Realty, and us, because, real estate, although different from local nuances on a national, provincial, international level, is not all that different from one place to the next. There are some technical differences and some regulatory differences, but we're always going to focus on being compliant no matter what. Again, that's where your brokerage, your managing brokers, your designated brokers come in. That's where the company comes in. That's also where your local expertise comes in. We operate more on the level of, okay, how can we make your life and business better, more efficient, more effective, more satisfying, and not feel so overwhelmed with it all. Okay? So that's where the two really connect and combine. Okay. For example, if you're a new realtor, so I always said that we have a podcast that focuses on rookie realtors. So with that, we give you a lot of support that way. Then we have our momentum machine where we get together on a weekly basis and talk about what's going on, building momentum before rookie agents is one of the biggest transitions in their state of mind, right? It's not what you do today for today. It's what you do today for longevity, for sustainability, for building that, momentum to have buyers and sellers kind of nurtured through their phases and stages in their life, so that if and when they're actually ready to buy and sell, that they have established that trust relationship with you, right? So that's what we work on a lot. And so part of that is local, but a lot of that is just consistency and continuity, right? Building the scripts, building the presentations, building the materials, and having you have a set of buddies and support people as well as tools available to you if and when needed. Okay? Not to the point that you're overwhelmed and intimidated by it, but that you truly understand that we're there with you every step of the way. Now, one of the things that happens after about a year or so is that you now know what to do, how to do it, when to do it, where to do it. However, the income is inconsistent because the systems are typically not quite optimized, if there are systems at all, right? There's little or no delegation. There's not little or no automation. There's, maybe some challenges with accountability and so on and so forth. So we then work with you to build your systems in a way that work for you, not because they're our systems and we want to impose them on you. No, we work always with you to make sure that everything works as you want to work. Still pointing out that, hey, if you want this certain success levels, there is a degree of accountability, the degree of consistency that is necessary. Okay? If you are at a stage where you really want to build teams, you want to really grow as a true business, right? So that you can, at some point in time or another, just manage the operations rather than be in the business. You work on it to a larger degree. Well, again, having been there on many different levels and occasions, we have already put all of that in place for many people, so we can help you build that wherever it is that you are, whether you're just thinking about hiring your first person or working with the first person that you want to work with, and what that looks, feels, and acts like, and or if you have an operational system but you're finding yourself hitting some walls, hitting some ceilings because certain things are not quite working the way that you thought they should work, we can review that, analyze it, and start putting together the pieces that will help you through all of those stages and phases. The builders are really what a lot of agents are aspiring to, but oftentimes hit a threshold that they go like, hey, I hadn't anticipated that. And it's that shift from me to we that really is a significant piece there. Somebody asked me, well, what's the difference between being a very high producing agent and a business owner that runs a team productively and efficiently? And it's exactly that. It's no longer thinking in, I want them to do it my way, to thinking, we are doing it this way because it's the most efficient, most effective. And that requires some really considerable thought as to thinking outside of, into your own interpretations of things as to what is best for the business. Let me give you a real simple definition between the difference between an independent agent and a business owner. If your business is very much affected by your presence, i.e., if you were to take 2 weeks off and you come back and nothing has happened, or things are happening outside of what your expectations or how you thought they should be operating, then you do not own a business. You are very much an agent, maybe with some support people, but you're not running a business, right? conversely, if you go away and your business runs as smooth as if you were there, sometimes even better because, you know, you're not interfering with the smoothness of the operation. Now you own a business. Right? This is how McDonald's can operate, function, and be highly efficient and effective working with teenagers. Nothing against teenagers, but they have a limited attention span. So everything that they want or need to be doing needs to be documented and diarized, and therefore everything is documented and diarized in the operational system and checklist and expectations set out and reviews and whatever else. So every step of the way is not an accident. It's a process. It's a system. And the system now is held accountable, right? With the operators and the managers looking at it and say, okay, this is what we set out to do. You did all the work. It's still not quite right. So what's wrong with the system? How can we improve the system? Right? It's a whole other approach to where builders could be and should be. All right. Now, for retiring agents, same thing. We assist and support those agents. And by the way, this is one of the reasons why quite a few people join organizations like us in the context of sponsorship and co-sponsorship, right? If you are thinking about retirement and you want to bring somebody with you into the organization that might eventually take over your business, well, we help that process, and it can be very, very profitable. It can be very sustainable, both for yourself as the person thinking about retiring, or as the person that is taking over your business. It can be very rewarding. And again, we can help you every step of the way. Okay. So again, just keep saying this can really be the best of both worlds, right? You have both the local support, the market expertise, right? Sense of community and so on and so forth. But you also get the coaching, the accountability, the technology, the referrals, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, everything that eXp has to offer on top of that and in addition to that. How cool is all that, right? All right. So what process, what phases, what stage, what method is the best way for you? And we're going to talk about this in rather candid terms because, for many people, making a decision as to joining anything, whether it is a brokerage or, buying into other business relationships or buying a service, it's both emotional, but it's also strategic. It's also very much a business decision, right? And they don't need to necessarily be exclusive to each other. So it doesn't all have to be emotional or all be strategic. This offers you both, right? So, but then it's still really quite important how that is structured, and both financially as well as emotionally. Okay. So the emotional part obviously talks about, friendship, loyalty, pressure, a little bit of obligation, popularity, all of those things matter. Strategic decisions really look at what's the support? What am I getting for my money or for my investment or from my relationship, right? When I started in real estate, and I was new to Canada, I looked up and said, okay, which brokerage is going to put me in front of the largest number of people? Because I realized that I didn't know anybody, so I needed to know or get to know as many people as quickly as possible to establish myself. Now, as it so happened, the brokerage that I chose was the one that did that because we had kiosks at the time, right? Mall display units, as we formerly called them. So that gave me kind of a retail sales approach to promoting myself in real estate inside of shopping centers. Now, I come from a real retail sales environment, so I knew that environment and was very comfortable with it and had no problem talking to people about just about anything pertaining to real estate. Now, I'm not an overly social person, but I can do that quite comfortably without feeling stress or strain at all. So that was my strategic decision, why I decided to join that brokerage. Now, did I have friends in that broker? Did I know? Well, I knew one or two people, but that was about it. In fact, it was the realtor that I bought my own house through when we first moved to Canada was there, but he was the last person I would ever want to work with, because he's actually one of the reasons why I decided to become a realtor, because I thought he was not particularly good. Okay. Which is, by the way, one of the reasons why a number of people join real estate, because they figured, hey, if he or she can do it, I can certainly do a much better job than that person. It sounds maybe kind of corny and contrived, but it really was one of the reasons why I thought, hey, if that person can do it, I can certainly do a better job. Anyway, so step one, right? For you to decide who should be your sponsor or co-sponsor, who should be, right? If you have options, right? You have friends, you have team leaders, you've got coaching, you've got brokers leaders, industry experts, you've got, you think and look at all of your options, right? Whether that's us or, your buddy or, okay, so consider all of your candidates, all of your potential candidates, right? And then do something that may initially feel a bit counterintuitive. So put the emotions aside for a moment, right? Put all of that aside and think about, what do you need? What are your absolute essentials for you to succeed in this business, right? Because if it's all personal or all strategic, that some of it may still be relevant, but it's got to come from you having a very clear understanding what you need. And if it's semi-vague, well, I need more leads. Well, that's vague to me, right? I want to pay lower fees. That's vague to me. What does that mean, right? Most brokerages will have various options as far as compensation, but their model, their process, their programs have relevance in their context, in their situation. For example, yes, we have a monthly fee at eXp. And some people say, well, you charge a monthly fee. But hang on for a second. That monthly fee pays for a lot of things that you'll need anyways. And if you had to buy those things yourself, you're going to spend a whole lot more money. For example, you have an option to, out of 3 different CRMs, contact management, relationship management systems, right? Websites with a database that does mailings and marketing and social media and follow-up and all that kind of stuff, right? Well, if you had to subscribe to either one of those 3, your monthly cost by itself would be between $150 to $250 a month, just for that one tool alone, right? Now, there's a whole bunch of other things, like the do not call list subscription. A lot of brokerages ignore that, but it is a very, very important tool and resource, because it keeps you out of real estate jail, right? You cannot solicit people that are on the do not call list. So you need to have a method to search that and research that. Now, if you're heavy duty into telemarketing, we used to call it cold calling, but even, follow-up calls on inquiries, on open houses, on what have you, you still, if you do not have explicit authority and approval from that person, you better check the do not call list, because the fines are just astronomical. Now, if you start doing things like auto dialers and all that kind of stuff and using technology to get in touch with neighborhoods or communities or buildings or whatever else, and you have not used a do not call list and verified that the numbers that you're trying to call are actually for real, you can really put yourself behind the 8 ball. It's very, very important to check that. And because the fines actually compound, right? The first fine is a warning letter, then it's $250, and then it compounds into 3,000, 5,000, and so on and so forth, and then daily fines. So it can be, so having that subscription is a really, protective tool. Now, there's a whole bunch of other things. We have digital banking tools, so you never have to go into the bank in order to deposit a deposit check or bring it into the office. No, you can do it on your phone. Boom, done. We have our SkySlope, we have our online training. We have so many tools and resources, FastPay. There's our monthly fee really is a cost recovery that saves you money in the long run, but it is a monthly fee. But if you're therefore comparing apples with oranges, you don't really have a clear understanding as to what the fee means. Splits are another thing, right? What does a split mean? Well, you got to have a hard look at those things. So what are your needs? What kind of training, what kind of system, what kind of fee structure, what kind of accountability, what does the referral structure look like, access to technology or assistance and training. If you don't know what your needs are, how do you know that the brokerage and the people that you're going to work with are the right options for you? So it doesn't start with you listening to all of what a brokerage has to offer, what a coach has to offer, what your sponsor has to offer. No, it starts with you. What is most important to you? And then go from there. Okay. So is your sponsor, therefore, do you need local expertise? What kind of local expertise? Or are you the greatest wizard on local expertise already? So, okay, then maybe that changes how you go about these things, right? But if you're a brand new realtor, well, maybe you need some examples of contracts and pricing and doing evaluations and service providers and market conditions and all that kind of stuff. Well, that's an important consideration, right? There's a whole bunch of other business building categories, of course, that are important, right? Business planning. Very often overlooked. It's one of my standard questions to many, many agents, asking them exactly as to, do you have a business plan, right? And if they don't have a business plan, my typical question is, well, when are you going to create one? Because without a business plan, how do you know where to go? What your needs are, how to develop your business your way. And so that's where it starts. We offer you business planning and sessions, as well as materials and resources and tools to work with, and spreadsheets and accountability tools and what have you. We do train and we do provide all kinds of systems, but what do you need is what is key, right? Start with all of that. Right? And then some advanced support categories, right? These are the things that really build your business. What's your lead generation methodology? What's your preferred method? How do you? We always talk about the hard ways and the easy ways, right? Relationship nurturing and building is the easy way. The hard ways are things like cold calling, door knocking, for sale by owners, expired listings, foreclosures, estate sales, builders, developers. Those are harder because it requires you to be proactive. But some people do both, and that's perfectly fine. What is your model, right? What technology, what AI are you using? What do you do for referrals? Now, there's 3 types of referrals that I always refer to, right? There's your sphere of influence, then there is your local business to business referrals, and then there's peer to peer, right? Agent to agent referrals. And many, 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 many agents are underutilizing one or all 3 or 2 out of 3, right? So there's real opportunities there. Then what do you do with your community, your local community, your niche market, your target audience, and then long-term supports, right? All of these are very important. And you rate these areas as to what your needs are, and then how each of those offers the tools and resources and supports that you need. And when somebody is not really measuring up, then let it show, right? And it can therefore very much affect your decision making process. See, now you come from a knowledge based, right? And the highest score person or resource may not necessarily be your sponsor, right? Your highest scoring person may actually be your ideal co-sponsor, because co-sponsoring allows you to combine those strengths, right? If you do a SWOT analysis, what do you want to work on? Do you want to work on your strengths or your weaknesses? Well, you want to make sure that you optimize all aspects of your business direction and therefore gain the benefit. So here's that two-pronged approach to finding the best solution for you, right? On one side, we offer you all of the business planning, the coaching, the systems, the technology, the referrals, the accountability. And your local expert gives you, the local expertise, the market knowledge, the local contracts, relationships, community, and local guidance. And a lot of that actually, in some way, shape, or form, piggybanks on each other, right? Because your community will generate referrals. How do we optimize that? Well, that's getting in touch, staying in touch. What are your systems for that? Right? And so on and so forth. So the two very much work closely together, right? So here's a key question. Key question. If revenue share didn't exist, would I still choose this person to help me build my business? It's a key question, because this is a business decision. It's not just a friendship decision, right? So think about that. So if I pick this sponsor, will the sponsor still help me today, a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Depending on where you are, that can be, life-changing. If you're brand new, it's even more important. If you're, somewhere in the middle, your 3, 4, 5, 10-year plan is pretty important. If you're just getting ready to get into retirement mode, and for many people that means, I'm going to just give up my license. Well, that's a bad move most of the time. So if you are thinking about retirement, please talk to us, because there's a much better way to go about that. But anyway, so choose for where you're going, not where you are, right? Are you in any one of those 4 modes, or 5 modes? Then make sure that you talk to yourself and think about it, right? The biggest mistake I see is choosing people because of emotional side. And don't get me wrong, I don't want to understate that the emotions are important, but it has to be supported by a good business decision as well. Okay? Friendship is not a good business plan. Now, again, I'm not suggesting for a moment that you got to hate the people that you work with. No, not at all. Not at all. This is a lonely business, right? So even at the worst of time, and particularly at the worst of time, you need some people around you that you know, like, and trust, and that you have a real symbiotic friendship relationship with. Absolutely. But when it comes down to business, are they the right person to help you get there? I don't know that. That's a decision you need to make, right? So here is one of the reasons why so many people make this mistake. See, where a lot of agents that are thinking about joining eXp, they're being sold on this notion of revenue share, right? That's the number one kind of reason why they keep talking. And to me, with all due respect, even though I like the whole notion of revenue share, but it's got to come from production. You have to be strong in your production for yourself to be sustainable for yourself. You can't rely on external things that you may or may not be able to attain. So if you're thinking about joining eXp strictly and only for revenue share, I don't know. I'm not suggesting that it can't work, but I don't think it's the best way to go about it. I would really, the successful agents work on what they can control, which is their production. They work with coaches, they build systems, they have their own training, or they train other people. They work on their community, they focus on referrals, technology, and then the revenue share almost automatically comes because they become very attractive, right? And that attracts people. See how that reverses the perspective. Now, again, there's many different ways, but what I see and what I hear many people kind of have thinking about, and some of the reasoning why some agents actually get disappointed about being part of eXp is that they have way too high expectation on revenue share rather than on working on the business that they can control. So I would encourage you to think about that as well. So ask better questions, right? So what training exists? What coaching, guidance, systems, accountability? What's done about continuity and consistency? How can I become better at that? Because if you can tell me one reason that will affect your business more than consistency and continuity, I'd be very keenly interested in learning about that. Because to me, that is the crutch to many, many agents' success and not necessarily being able to succeed because it falls down there, right? It's continuity and consistency. It's so, so important. And with that, of course, comes technology, what kind of community exists, what referral opportunities exist. Well, we're some 90,000 agents internationally. Think about that, 90,000 referral opportunities within the brokerage. And then our international reach and the tools and resources that we own and operate as a brokerage. It's quite something. Now, what happens after onboarding, and can I speak with existing agents? All of those are important questions. You should ask those questions, right? Now, here's some direct answers to some very distinct questions that we hear on a regular basis. Can I change my sponsor? No. But I'm going to say 99.9% of the time, if you've decided on a sponsor and it's in your ICA, it's pretty much set in stone. Okay. Can I change my co-sponsor potentially? Well, there are some very distinct requirements for that. There is a possibility, but it's not that easy. Can the sponsor and the co-sponsor be in the same organization, team, downline? No. Okay. And does co-sponsorship replace mentorship? And that's a hard no as well. Now, can a sponsor or co-sponsor also be a mentor? Yes, it can be, but it doesn't become that automatically. Because as a mentor, you have to qualify, you have to certify, right? You can't be showing up Monday morning and say, "Well, I'm a mentor now." It puts an onus, a responsibility on the mentor to help that mentee, you as an agent joining, to get wherever it is that you want to be, and that requires some proactive tasks and responsibilities. Okay, so what do you need most, right? What do you need, right? That's where we start. Then you choose your priorities, right? And then you start talking about, okay, who can get me there? Who can help me get to wherever it is that I want to go? Is that ABC? Is that a friend? Is it Peter? What? Okay. So you pick your advisor, coaching, what systems, what local expertise do you need? And sometimes we overthink this local thing a little bit too much, right? I mean, when COVID hit, we suddenly realized that this local thing was not that critical. Yeah, the first 2 to 3 weeks was a bit odd because we're all kind of wondering how we're going to operate and function. But then we realized that our systems, our eXp operational model, had been remote all along. So we just picked up the pieces and ran with it, and we really had no shutdown whatsoever. In fact, it showed the sustainability and the reliability, the predictability, the operational infrastructure way faster than most people realized. We were ready. We didn't even know that we needed to be ready for that, but we were ready for it. Whereas many brokers, I remember this picture from one of the managing brokers here in BC, showing up with his paper files, sitting on his back porch trying to stay current. Well, none of that ever happened in our organization because it was all done digitally and electronically anyways. Anyway, so, and that can happen from pretty much anywhere. What's a leadership like? What is referral operations look like? If you can generate 5 referrals per month from various sources, business to business, peers, your sphere of influence, how good is your business going to look, right? What kind of production and accountability is available, and can you build the best combination that works for you the best way? Then you're in the right spot, right? So support hierarchy, right? Most people think about, revenue share, revenue share, revenue share. I'm going to suggest to you that if we help you from the ground up, building a very strong production platform that just runs and is consistent in generating business opportunities for you. I'm not just saying leads, no, business opportunities, relationships, right? Both in real estate sales, but maybe also in the truck show. Then everything else supports that. And that will then look after not only your cash flow from an operational point of view, but also the revenue share, which then both support whatever business plans and objectives that you have. Makes a whole lot of sense to me. So building the strongest team possible for you is really what this whole video has been all about. And yes, you can do this on your own. Absolutely. There's nobody saying that you have to have a co-sponsor. But to be honest with you, this is a team sport, and we don't necessarily always give it the full credit of that. And I'm encouraging you to really think about how you, your buddy, your friend, your local expertise, and a co-sponsorship can really help you to wherever it is that you want to go, right? And as the slide says, your future self will thank you for that, right? This very much is a business as well as a life-changing decision. And I wish you all the best. It's not easy to make these decisions, whether it is joining a brokerage or whether who's going to help you get to wherever it is that you want to be. And if we can help, by all means, all our conversations are 100% confidential, of course, and we'll never divulge anything. But it has to come from you, right? What is important to you? So if you can take a moment and take a little bit of an edge off the emotional side and start thinking about in the business context of how am I going to best serve my clients, my business, you will make the right decision. Looking forward to talking to you. All the best and have a fantastic week.